Hi, John Breen here, Breen Machine Automation Services. I'm an engineer and trainer, and I had an interesting issue the other day, technical challenge. It's becoming more and more common to try to do remote troubleshooting, and by that I mean connecting to PLCs, HMIs, and other automation products from off-site. So usually that's done by having a little device, brands like Ewan, Secomiya, Phoenix Contact has a product. There are probably a bunch I don't even know about. And that device connects to the internet in a secured way so that someone off-site can also connect to the internet and then talk to the PLC or HMI or whatever is in question. And so it makes an extra layer of interest for those of us who are using virtual machines. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit today because it took me a few seconds to figure it out. I tried to approach it from the perspective of the way I would normally connect to things, and that didn't end up working out as well. So without further ado, let's jump on the computer and take a look. All right, so first I want to talk about a little bit more on how this system works, the software and hardware involved, where things are connected. Then I'm going to tell you the very short story of what the solution was, how to connect inside my virtual machine to a PLC through the internet. And after that, for you overachievers, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the other things that I tried that did not work. So, first of all, this is the product we're talking about right now. It's again an Ewan product. There are a bunch of other brands out there, and as I understand it, they all work pretty similarly. So this will be a good talking point, if nothing else. I'm not really trying to sell one brand over another. So this is connected inside the control cabinet at that remote location, and one side of this plugs into the same network that the PLC and HMI and servos are connected to, and the other side of this plugs into something that's connected to the internet. So normally it will be connected to my customer's internal network, which will go through a firewall to get to the internet. This is just a picture that I found on Ewan's website, and it shows that a little bit, right? On one side of this is that eCozy. One side is connected to the PLC and other things. The other side is connected to this internal network that may be also connected to the office, who knows? And then it goes through a firewall to get to the internet. And then there's a server that Ewan runs. And in some examples of this kind of technology, you can have the server locally on your site if you want to be able to manage security a little more closely. I've never had any problems with the security that's built into their cloud services, but it depends on what you need. And then after that, maybe we're going through another VPN to get to the internal network at say my facility or the OEM or programmer that's working on it. And there's a piece of software, in this case eCatcher, that's gonna connect to this cloud, which is then gonna connect to one or the other of these two Ewans, the eCozies here. So this is already a lot of different layers of things in order to get that connection. Now, when we run the eCatcher, I'll show you quick what that looks like. You sign in here, you have a corporate account, maybe your customer. In this case, my customer has their own account, and they would give me username and password access to it. And after logging in, I just pulled up a YouTube here because I don't want to actually connect to my customer account right now. But this is what it looks like after that. You have access to, in this case, 2 different eCozy devices. So you double click on it or click on it and click connect. And now magically I can access the PLC and HMI and everything else. And so I can ping it and I can connect to it with my programming software, these IP addresses that aren't really connected to my machine at all. Now the complication happens, again coming back here, now inside of this laptop, now we've also got a virtual machine, so now we got to figure out how to connect this eCatcher software to that virtual machine. Now, I'm going to tell you, long story short, the trick was to just connect, was to install eCatcher inside of the VM. and give the VM access to the internet, and everything worked magically. All right, so I'm looking inside my VM right now. You see I've got the installer for eCatcher. I've already installed it. I've got it open and connected, and I want to point out quickly the things that I have to do in order to make sure I have internet access to my virtual machine. Now, before we start connecting to the internet, I want to talk about security. So I generally recommend setting up a virtual machine without antivirus and firewalls and other things like this, because those things can interfere with industrial software, interfere with connecting to PLCs and other things. And they don't always, but it's nice to not have to worry about it. Now, if we're going to have a virtual machine that doesn't have those things, and now we're going to start connecting it to the internet, that does open us up to security threats a little bit. And the virtual machine itself still gives us another layer of separation between this open programming environment and your host machine and your company's internal network, servers, whatever else IT would be generally worried about things bleeding into if there was a security threat. The VM does give us a layer of separation there, but it's probably not perfect, and I don't know that IT would agree that you should be able to run all this without antivirus, etc., and also be connected to the network or to the internet. So I just want you to be aware of that before we start connecting this. I generally don't connect my virtual machine to the internet except when I'm doing something like this, just to minimize the risk. So in this case, I'm getting internet through my hardwired connection, which is the same hardwired connection that I would use to connect to any industrial equipment, which means I don't need to change any of my network settings on my virtual machine. I don't need to touch the virtual network editor. The only thing that I need to do is look at my network connections and make sure that my programming network is set up for DHCP, which means obtain IP address automatically. And I do this because anytime we're connected to a network with internet access, there's always some sort of DHCP server out there. There's a router that's assigning IP addresses. And if we try to give it our own IP address like we normally would with an industrial machine network, it's probably not going to work on that DHCP run internet accessible network. Maybe you'll end up having the same IP address as someone else, or maybe you won't be on the same subnet. Anyway, so just selecting this will work just fine. And this works because, again, I've already got this connected in the background to the physical port on my computer, which is where I'm getting my internet from. Now, if I wanted to get internet through Wi-Fi, then I would have to change that in the virtual network editor. And I'll show you that very briefly here. Go to Edit, Virtual Network Editor. Always have to click on Change Settings, and then Alt-Tab until we find that window, because it always appears behind for some reason. So VMnet 0 is my primary, and it's bridged to this physical Ethernet connection. I have another virtual network that's set up to my wireless, and so I could use this instead if I wanted to. So VMnet 0 is hardwired, VMnet 2 is wireless, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on the other side. So those are the two that I have available. I'll click OK. I didn't really change anything. Now if I go to VM and Settings, I have this one network adapter here right now. And right now, this one network adapter is connected to VMnet 0. This is my hardwired network. If I want it to be connected to Wi-Fi, I would select VMnet 2, and now that programming network that you see back here will be connected to Wi-Fi instead of to a physical Ethernet connection. I'm not going to do that right now. So I hope I didn't confuse that too much. It's certainly not a simple topic. There are a lot of layers of abstraction and security, but actually using it is fairly straightforward. You install the software inside your virtual machine, make sure your virtual machine has internet access, and then it just works like magic as long as you've got the credentials to log in and connect to those devices. Some of the other things that I tried for you overachievers is I tried having eCatcher on my host machine because I typically have access to internet on my host but not inside my VM. And again, I usually try and keep it that way. So I looked to see, okay, how does this connect to things? Well, there's a virtual adapter, virtual network adapter that eCatcher installs and uses. And so I tried connecting my virtual network to this instead of connecting my virtual network to the to the internet, either through Ethernet or Wi-Fi. I was trying to connect directly to this, and I tried all sorts of variations of IP addresses, static, dynamic, and I just couldn't get that to work. But then if we look inside the VM, when I installed eCatcher, it put this same adapter inside the VM. And that's the one that the VM ends up using. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that saves somebody some time, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like more information about our engineering services, check out breenmachine.com. For more information about our training services, check out courses.breenmachine.com. Links are in the comments below.